Well, there was a bit of excitement last time I was working on this. Playing a game, just trying to work out what was working, and suddenly it went dead. Not everything, the lights were all still on, but no solenoids, and soon discovered a very obvious dead fuse. And it's a 10 amp fuse for what they say is the 25 volt circuit, which is the solenoid circuit. And it's actually this switch here underneath. So I had to take those two screws off, pull this out and readjust the switch. I couldn't really do it from above. And of course I didn't have a replacement fuse, I don't know why, but I've got some now. Thank you eBay. I put one in, everything's alright. So we're back to square one, which is better than nothing. Carrying on now, these wires at the front here, this total mess. There are lots of what look like red and green, maybe red and faded blue, but probably red and green wires. And that one at some point, let's get these out of the way, this one at some point has been there and has been cut. And similarly, this one at some point has been there and has been cut. Not only that, but prior to them being cut, those joins are not factory, and so they'd evidently been cut at some previous time, soldered, and then cut again and left free. So, okay, what's that about? So that's two pairs that we've got to sort out. On top of which, more red and green over here. Now, one of these wires was going into this block and the other one was just free floating. I think it had come out of the block. I put it in here to stop it from shorting with anything, but I think it should go back into there. And maybe if we do that, something would happen. Something that isn't working might work. Similarly, if I join these back up, as they evidently were once, maybe something would happen. Yeah, that's a bit of a gamble. So to do it properly, of course, I should be looking on the schematic. The problem is there are very few red and green wires shown on the schematic, and nothing that I can tie up with the ones that we've got down by the front door. Although, of course, on the schematic, they're not necessarily going to be shown nearby the front door. We've got coin mech and stuff down here, but no red and green wires around here. There's a floating brown wire which I think I've located here, which should go to the replay switch. That kind of makes sense, it's next to it. But these red and greens are a bit of a mystery, which I'm trying to sort out now. Now you might think perhaps the red and green is a replacement wire. It's not factory. Well, look at this. There's the plastic red and green going into a join, and then there's what looks like, it's very faded, cloth covered red and green. And that join is factory. I'm pretty sure it's the same cover, red cover that's used, sleeving, that's used elsewhere. So unless there's been a fairly substantial rewire, but with very professional looking ties, although they're not the same as the factory silk ties. So maybe there's been some rewiring at some point, professionally done way back in the day. Difficult to know. Just to find out what the clearance is on these bulbs, between the bulb and the cap, I've got a little piece of plastic rod that I've stuck on top of the bulb to act as a spacer, so that when the cap's on there it's not wobbling about. There's at least, I would say, 3mm clearance there, and I had to wait for some appropriate screws from eBay because there were no screws. So got the 2 screws in here and that's it. These passive bumpers, I've put standard bayonet holders in. All 3 had a different type of holder, which is this, designed for the wedge base 555 lamp. Now the reason that I changed those 3 was ignorance and stupidity. I thought that they were some kind of later replacement, and it meant that there were 2 different types of bulbs in the bumpers, which wasn't a good idea. So I changed them for a standard bayonet fitting. But if you put a standard lamp in there, in the new bayonet fitting, it was too high and the caps of the passive bumpers were fouling on there and they would have burnt. So having put those new bayonet holders in, I found a shorter bulb. As you can see, the glass is significantly shorter, or perhaps you can't see, but it is. That's where the glass finishes. On the big one you can see how much lower that is, so there was no risk of burning the caps on the passive bumpers. Now if someone wants to put these back in, these type of holders, to the passive bumpers, the holders will be kept with the machine, so that's an easy job, that's an option. It does mean now that all 6 bumpers, the 3 passive bumpers and the prop bumpers, all have the same type of bulbs. Well, here we are. And it's nice to see it with the back glass on again, finally. Or perhaps finally. Some more diffuser required on the horse painting at the back there, which is anticipated. That's easy to do. Oh, looks pretty good. Now the thing is, what we've got to deal with now is the game counter not working, and this, which comes up intermittently, so when it gets to 999 and goes over, usually this bulb doesn't come on, so there's something strange, it's not counting up there. The knocker's back in but not yet working, of course, because the game counter isn't working. So carrying on. It was a bit more fun yesterday when I've been playing fine, switched off the game, switched it on later, and immediately the game zeroed. The Bronco started bucking and wouldn't stop. I had to turn off the game quickly to save the coil from burning out. This is the centre rollover. It scores 100 and you get the horse kicking when it scores 100, but in fact it wasn't a stuck switch. It was the L coil, which is in the back box, the 100s coil. I fiddled with L coil, and there we go, L. And the problem is that there's a contact missing. If you can see that, there's a little hole there. There should be a contact on there and it's gone. So that's not going to work properly. It's not surprising. So that's the next job, try and find something that will do the job. Someone had bent the leaf with the missing switch contact closer to make it work, which it kind of did, but obviously not reliably. And it may account for this, which was a burnt out coil that came with the game, and perhaps not coincidentally the horse kicker coil was missing. I had to buy one. So I think that this has been a problem for a while, the sticking on of the horse coil due to that switch. So we're finally getting around to sorting that out. And I found this rather small screw and nut, which I'm going to try to put through that hole in place of the old contact. Am I wasting my time? Possibly. We'll find out. But my fingers are too fat for this job really, but no option, got to be done. But I'll probably have to take the back box board out. I can't do this in mid-air, I need the board lying flat. And we'll see.